to a new episode of the Sri Lankan Understanding. We are looking at this program from a point of view of history, archaeology and culture, understanding our past so that we can better understand the future. We are here today at the beautiful Maitland State Room at the Mount Lavinia Hotel, who is our location sponsor for this episode. My name is Lankan and I am a tea marketer and trainer by day. I'm a writing night owl. And I have a passion for archaeology, which I followed through an MSc, which I did as a passion. So today's episode here today, I have a very important guest with me, somebody I'm very proud to have here. We have Shereen Amendra. Welcome. Shereen Amendra is a chartered architect. She's also a chartered landscape architect. Her specialty is landscape architecture. She's a senior consultant at the Faculty of Architecture, University of Moratuwa. She also lectures at the University of Colombo and University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. She's also the president of the Royal Asiatic Society, something very important we'll talk about in the episode. She's been a past president of Engineering Architecture Section C at the Surveying Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science.
Sri Lanka Association
for the Advancement of Science, yes. And she's somebody very special. She has written a very exciting book, which we will be talking about. And she's looked at a very familiar monument that all of us know from a very exciting point of view. And I wish we did more research and studies into things like this. So we will talk about that a bit later. So welcome to the show, Mrs. Amendra. And I would like you to please first tell us a little bit about the Royal Asiatic Society, what it is and why is it important?
Thank you. It is extremely important because it was established in 1845. I'm the 51st president and the third woman.
That's awesome.
So, yes, it is wonderful because the Royal Asiatic Society was the precursor for the establishment of the university, as well as the National Museum, as well as the Department of National Archives and many other government organizations, because it was the members of the Royal Asiatic Society, as it was then known as the Royal Asiatic Society of Ceylon, and became, of course, later Royal Asiatic Society of Sri Lanka. But it was actually started because the first society of the Asian region was in Kolkata. And thereafter, some people from the Kolkata Royal Asiatic Society moved over to Britain, set up the Royal Asiatic Society of Great Britain and Ireland. And then many other Royal Asiatic Societies were established in all other Asian countries, Korea and Malaysia, many other countries, including Ceylon at that time. So we are at our premises are opposite the Victoria Park, with our own premises, which we share with the Mahaveli Authority. Which they also helped with the building and so on. But it's very exciting, in the sense that many young people, they go hiking, and they love to explore and see all these monuments and wonderful places, monuments such as the Ruan Valley and so many other places which are not so well known. But if you come to the Royal Asiatic Society and use the books and the knowledge, partake of the, participate in the lectures and so on, you actually, it's like going on a hike, and even more so, because the facts are there. The facts are there in the books, and it turns out to be quite an adventure.
Of course.
So I would really urge young people to come and explore this.
Yes, I know. I think this is a real call to action to any young person who has an interest, and it's quite a diverse area, right? Literature, history, archaeology, architecture. You don't have to be, strictly scientific, but in a society today where we have so much social media giving misinformation, places like the Royal Asiatic are important for us to go and get factual based things and learn about not just the country we live in, but the world we live in, because the Royal Asiatic is linked to the global Royal Asiatic body, as it were, in a sense,
Yes.
correct?
We network with many other Royal Asiatic societies as well as many other societies.
Okay.
In fact, this morning, the Archaeological Society, we have had their meeting because we have member associations.
Okay.
You know, so they too use our premises, and there's a lot which can be learned because the facts, as you say, are available.
Are available, exactly.
And we have our journal, our main you know, resources, our library, and of course our journal, which is used to be biennial and, you know, shared with the world, as well as the public lectures, which was of a high standard.
High standard,
you know,
exactly,
which,
with academics and scientists who present facts. So please, this is our call to you. The Royal Asiatic is open to anyone who's an adult. Please join it and see what is available and the information and also the great work they do through the journal and their talks, and of course so much more available.
Yes.
So
now this is the journal.
Oh yes.
This is
lovely.
one of the journals of the Royal Asiatic
Society. And these are very well recognized because they're properly peer reviewed and published. They are
double peer reviewed.
So that is very important. Krishan and I spoke about this at our earlier episodes about how peer reviewing ensures that there is, you know, there is no biasness in it as much as possible, and it is very science based. So now let's move on to a very exciting topic that we spoke about earlier. So like I said, Mrs. Amendra has written this book, Beyond the Seeing Eye, the Mahatupa of Lanka. So for those who don't know, the Mahatupa is the old name of the Ruan Valley site. It has many names. If you read her book, you come across them as well. And what really excited me about this is she has looked at this from a point of view of a very science-based thing. Now we know the Ruan Valley site, those of us in Sri Lanka, it's the, you know, ultimate pilgrimage spot in Anuradhapura from a spiritual and religious point of view. But this is more of a from an engineering and, you know, science point of view. And I would like to ask you, Mr. Amendra, would you please tell us what made you think of the Ruan Valley Sai or the Mahatupa from the point of view that you are looking at it in this book?
Yes, I must say I used to read my mother's copy of the Mahavansa when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And that aroused my curiosity, you know, what is all this material doing underground and underneath a dome which cannot be accessed.
Yes.
So this, I was just curious.
Yes, because
and
it's very, I mean, it's very detailed. I remember when I read Yeager's version, I was like, what is this poetic hyperbole? Because there are things like layers of pearl and copper, and you're like, what is this?
Yes.
And how they went looking for it and it appeared. So it seems very poetic, and you wonder, okay, oh, so they wrote it in a very, you know, poetic way. But Mrs. do tell us what you thought.
So I found later on when I did architecture, studied architecture, time and again these thoughts came up in my mind, and I was thinking, you know, what is this? And then I began to search the archaeological records, and I found there's only a repetition of these layers and the materials that are in the Ruan Valley
The base of the Ruan Valley.
But there was no explanation, absolutely no way in which they said what this was about. And then as I searched, I found, my goodness gracious, this is amazing knowledge which the ancients had. Yeah. And here was this venerated stupa, which was, you know, where everyone comes on pilgrimage after Vesak. They come there, and it has withstood time. And there were certain aspects, like, you know, the stupa itself was so venerated. It was not the others. The Uttara Vihara was outside. The Jetavanaramaya was actually in the way of the Ruan Valley Saya. So, you know, it was a long story.
Long story, yes.
And it's these under the layers under which I have even on the cover of the book sort of shown this at the base, and then shown the zeros and the ones, and which
how they travel. So we'll talk about this a little bit later. We're going in for a short commercial break. We will be back to learn more about it. Stay tuned. Hi, so we are back again to learn about the Mahatupa or the Ruan Valley Saya here with Mrs. Shereen Amendra, who is a chartered architect, and she's giving us her interpretation of looking at it from a different point of view. So we were talking about your interest in the Mahavamsa and how it made you, explore the Ruan Valley Saya or the Mahatupa from a different perspective. What did you find in terms of materials that piqued your interest?
Well, there were many materials within the dome and within the relic chamber as well.
Okay.
So many of the materials really, it was a sequence rather than a single material. It was a sequence, and the manner in which it was put together that really interested me. So in 2006, I was invited by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects and presented at the National Forum. It was just, I was given half an hour and I tried to tell my story, and in a nutshell, there was this little bit that I could put across, Vijulata Viju Kumario, Meda Pindika Bittiya Samanta Chaturo Passe Parikippi, which meant around the four sides of the fat colored walls of this Garbaya, the relic chamber, were these what they call Vijju Kumari Vijulata. Yeah. So I translated that to mean actually electricity, streams of electricity, which had to wade through a lot of material, and that piqued my interest, as well as the sequence of the materials which were underground.
Right.
And then it suddenly struck me, it was a eureka moment, this sequence was so curiously parallel to what we use in this day and age in our communication devices. Our phones, our computers all have these microchips, which they're micro, this was macro, and a very, dinosaur stage, I would say, but it was mind-boggling. So this drove me to, research further, and it was quite a, search. So I made this presentation at the Architects Forum, and thereafter followed up with another peer-reviewed article in the Built Environment, which is the instrument of the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects.
Okay.
Soon after, I think Mr. Richard Lang of the Goethe Institute, a German Cultural Institute, also invited me to make a presentation, and that was on religion and architecture. And thereafter, he also helped me to, by which time I had written the book. And it was following, one after the other. And the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects also launched the book, as well as the Goethe German Cultural Institute, to which both of them I'm very grateful, because time and again I have made presentations, the most recent being in last December, to the research arm of the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects, and I spoke on the seen and unseen technology of the venerated Mahatupa.
Nice.
One must never forget that this Mahatupa or Ruan Valley Saya or Swarnamali Chaitya is venerated, and with Shraddhava, all the people of Sri Lanka, Shraddhava can't be translated very easily, but it is like fervor, where people go to worship because there's a drona of Buddha's relics embodied within. We must never forget that aspect of it.
And I love how the fact that even in your book you have mentioned the spiritual angle as well as the religious, and then the whole scientific part of it. So I think it's a wonderful balance, because see, a lot of us, you have the world today where science and religion are at loggerheads, but it needn't be so, because they are both complementary. And I think what's wonderful is how you have looked at this now. You mentioned it being a microchip, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about how it works.
A macro chip.
A macro chip, not micro, macro level chip. How it works and how you connected it to be giving a spiritual experience to the followers of the Buddha.
Whether it worked, I do not know.
No.
What
You hypothesize
what the purpose is, I do not know. But I certainly saw this very curious parallel. And also there were many other artifacts, all mentioned in the Mahavansa, which with the assistance of another book called the Manjusri Vastu Vidya Sastra, which was drawn from the Silpa Sastras.
Yes.
Silpa Sastras are the real technical treatises, which was actually promulgated in the 5th century, but written out only much later, about the 12th century. So the nice, the way of building and so on is all listed out there, but not that it was only written then, but it was practiced even earlier. So it was always, always said in the Mahavansa that it was the Arhat priests were pure of heart. No, base traits, klesha rahita, and with that purity and with that spiritual side to them, they were able to do these constructions, because a lot of knowledge comes in when one is pure, and that really helps. And that is one reason why I did not do a PhD, although I was invited, because that whole aspect of the Arahant priest and can't be told in a PhD.
Yes.
So in the book, yes, I was able to get that across.
Okay.
So there are many facets to this, where not only discovering what lay underneath and the curious parallel, but also it needed some kind of energy to make it work. If it were to work. With all these jars and gates and so on all around. So to make it work, where does this power come from? Which took me to the pinnacle.
Pinnacle. Okay, so we will go into the pinnacle right after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. Hi, so we are back looking at the Mahatupa or the Ruwan Valley Saya and looking at it from a more science or technology point of view. We are just discussing now if it were a macro chip, as it were, not a microchip. It has all the required necessary elements in it. Where did that power charge come from? So we are talking about the pinnacle. Yes. So I have with me Shereen Amendra, who is a chartered architect, and she is a person who's looked at this very scientifically. So I will have her explain to us.
Yes, thank you very much, Lankan. So it was actually this diagram which was done by my son in 2006 when 3D graphics was very new. He, the parts of the stupa. I had a cutaway view because I was not sure about the measurements and the sizes of the relic chambers, so to show that. But it is seen in many places, but this was done by Shereen Amendra in 2006. However, the pinnacle itself, now of course there is a spire called Kerala, but it was not so earlier. It was a chhatra which can be seen, as a Chatravali in Sanchi in India. Sanchi Stupa. But the chhatra was the lightning arrestor.
So it's like a disc, right?
Like a disc. Like a disc on a post. And this entire, the manner of construction is given in this Manjusri Vastu Vidya Sastra, which I drew on. So I really did several models, and my son with his 3D computer graphics, we worked out 3 separate models. Using copper leaf. Now what is mentioned there is Udvecha Kasayapad, and Tamrapatra upakilo yutam randre nishchidramachadam. You know, so that is in Sanskrit. Now I had to learn Pali for the one side and the Sanskrit because the Manjusri Vastuvidya Sastra is in Sanskrit.
Sanskrit, yes.
So now what does that mean? It means that they used post with copper foil. Tamrapatra is copper foil. So this post was firmly fixed, Nishchidramachadam, into this socket, Randre, and this copper foil draped over the garbe, over
so the dome of the
stupa. And on this post, there was copper throughout, you know, which tied the post together, the Gajastambha to the Chatradanda, to the Chatra itself. And the Chatra was also adorned in a particular way. And it was called Vajra Chumbata, which means kiss the lightning. As late Professor Nimadi Silva, he is the one who pushed me into writing, you know. And it was really not just to kiss the lightning, but to draw down the lightning in a particular way. So now we use the Franklin rod system in most of our buildings, but this is a different system altogether, which I discovered, which is called early streamer emission. And it brings down, you know, draws down the electricity
into the
while protecting the stupa. It also leaves a residual current on the silver plates and the copper, which is within. But at the same time, the lightning, the charges which are drawn down, are dissipated over the bulk of the dome through this copper foil. Because every stupa had this hataras kotua, or the square element on top. And that is what gives direction. So when you have this square, it creates a kind of impedance. So how can the power, the electricity flow down smoothly? It was done so that the copper foil would, on short posts, upakila short posts really, and draped over the four corners. And that is how the plaster bow leaves of today actually would have been, because the ancient stupas never had any plaster bow leaves. But what we see as plaster bow leaves today are a memory, a remnant of the copper foil, which oxidizes, turns green, and when we look up at the stupa, we see it as green leaves. You know, so our connotation is with the tree of enlightenment, the Bodhi tree of the Buddha, and therefore that has become these plaster leaves of today. You know.
So now that this charge came, I was very intrigued by what you said about the wondrous events that took place. You have mentioned several accounts in the book where people have seen sort of charged light, I would say, above the kota, or even above the stupe. In some have been, you know, that were not even reconstructed, where it is like a ball of light of different colors. So would this be a possibility with your theory?
Well, the cosmos is charged to some extent. But actually, when we consider this particular stupa, it was a drawdown of the current, a control of it, and excess, you know, what was the ring, what they called Vajra Chumbata, was to take excess voltages. And that is a ring of colored light. Actually, we have it today in all our electrical equipment to take up over voltages, like a disc. And the excess voltages, the excess photons would have come down over the dome and glowed, because they are free photons. And in the white, you know, background of the dome, and in the moonlight, the entire dome would have glowed, you know. So there is some poetic aspect. But I find in the Mahavansa, the science is really tersely written. It is short stanzas tucked within the stanzas, and there are a lot of flowery writing around it. But in my book, I have referred to every stanza And there's much more
More
to
to-
this in the relic chamber
Yes.
as well.
Yes, so we've unfortunately come to the end of our program, but that was such an exciting episode. So I encourage all of you to read Beyond the Seeing Eye, and this is something we need to do with history and archaeology, looking at it not just from a point of view of very, staid, fixed ideas of it being just for one purpose, but it could have been multiple purposes. And like we said, science and religion are not at loggerheads, they can really coexist, they complement each other. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Shereen Amendra. Thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful having you and explaining this wonderful theory. I was so thrilled reading this book. I encourage all of you to read it, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much, Lankan,
No
and it
problem.
was a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
No problem. Thank you. It was an honor. So please stay tuned as we bring in more episodes on the Sri Lankan understanding, looking at our past to understand the future.